I was locked in that basement for probably 10 hours straight. He gave me rat poisoning. He left a bucket in there so I could use the bathroom. Um, if you know anything about duct tape or you've ever put it on yourself, when you get sweaty or if it gets wet, it isn't sticky anymore. And I learned that. And so I remember I got all the duct tape off of my hands and I tore myself free and I got out of his basement and I found this big barbell that Adam used to work out. And I took it and I dragged it into my little closet and I put the duct tape back on my arm so it looked like I hadn't messed with it. And I was just planning on hitting him with it when he came in. And so I could hear him coming down the stairs. So I picked it up, and then he opens the closet door, and I freeze. And he just starts laughing. And he takes it, and he puts it away. And he comes back in, still smiling. And he was like, "You got anything else?" I was like, "No." So throughout these hours, he left me alone for most of the time. He took my phone, and I wouldn't tell him the password to it. So he came down with pliers, and he put them on around my fingers. And he just said, every whatever amount of time goes by, and you don't tell me your password, I'm cutting a finger off. And he squeezes my finger so hard I can feel it. I know he can do it. But he doesn't. So then I start doing what I always did. And I start saying, well, I'm lonely down here. Will you just come sit with me for a little bit? Just, talk to me. So he'd come sit with me. And then after a while I'd be like, okay, well, I'm really cold. Will you bring me a blanket? And he did. And then I'd say, well, I'm hungry, can you bring me some food? And he did. And the thing I'm most ashamed of in this situation, which saved my life, was I told him that I liked to be tied up. That something about what he was doing was turning me on, and I wanted to sleep with him. So he says, well, my grandparents are going to be asleep. I'll bring you upstairs, and we can do that. So it's probably 11 o'clock now. We go up into his room, and I make sure everything's back to normal. And he says, are you going to stay the night with me? Are you just going to go home? Is everything okay? And I was like, oh, well, my mom's really worried about me. I haven't talked to her in a couple of hours, so I'm going to go home, but I promise I'll be back tomorrow. So he let me go. And one of my good friends picked me up because he lived in Pawpaw too. And I told him everything that happened. And that was it. Me and Adam were fine. We were still together. So my senior year comes around. And before this, I didn't have any friends because, growing up, I always had a lot of friends until high school when I met Adam. Because Adam didn't want me hanging out with anybody, not even my family. Even when I'd say, oh, hey, I'm going to hang out with my cousin, he'd think I was going to cheat on him. Anyways, my senior year comes. Adam's not at my high school anymore. I finally feel more attractive. I'm more comfortable in my skin. I've kind of outgrown the awkward phase of being 13, 14, finally. I just felt really good about myself, and I hadn't felt like that before. And I remember going to Adam's once, and he was telling me, well, after you graduate, you're not going to go to school. You're not going to have a job. And of course, I'd be like, why? And he was like, well, because there's guys there. So I realized that by being with Adam, not only was my life going to be in danger every single day, but I wasn't going to have a life. He wanted me to just sit at home and be his object, basically. By this time, he was raping me every single night. And I didn't withhold sex from him ever. We were having sex probably 3 or 4 times a day. But still, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to him violating me. And then when I'd cry, it just seemed like that turned him on more and it made him want to do it more. I remember one time, it was the first time I gave up. We were at a hotel room, and he started raping me, and I remember just laying there. Normally I'd cry, I'd fight him, I'd hit him, but that time I just laid there and I took it. And he started screaming at me. He was like, "What is wrong with you? You're not the same Sophia. What is wrong with you?" And all I could think was, I'm not. I'm broken. This isn't Sophia. I don't know who Sophia is anymore. But I couldn't vocalize any of that. I just laid there. So after he was finished with me, I put back on my clothes and I got up and I went to the bathroom and I just turned on the faucet and I just sat there. I still had all my clothes on. I couldn't bear to look at myself in the mirror because I felt so disgusting. I didn't want to take my clothes off because it just felt wrong. So I sat there in the shower with the water on and my clothes drenched, and I just kept thinking, I want my mom. I want my mom. So he came into the bathroom and he starts yelling at me for faking it. He says, "Why are you acting crazy? Why are your clothes still on? Why are you doing this?" And I didn't say anything, which made him mad. So he started beating me. But that's just a description of a normal day with me and Adam. The bad days outweighed the good days by far, but when Adam was good, he was amazing. He would make CDs for me and leave them outside my window with flowers and like love notes and just pictures he drew. And of course, I didn't know any better. I'd never dated anyone. And looking back on it, I can see how people think that victims of domestic violence deserve what they got or put themselves in that situation. But you have to realize that people going through this don't see themselves as people anymore. Abusers literally break victims down into nothing. You feel like nothing. So I finally got the courage to leave him. And when I did, like I'd tried many, many times before, he did what he normally did. He texted me hundreds and hundreds of times saying, I'm going to kill your family, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to set your house on fire. But I was used to this. He said this every single day, just about. So I didn't think anything of it. So I get home from hanging out at my friend's house. It's about 10 o'clock. My mom told me to be home at 9:30, but I didn't listen. I walked into my house, and I go upstairs, and everything's normal. But when I walk in my room, there's my old comforter on the floor, and it smells a little bit weird. But I have a younger brother, and he smells kind of weird. So I just assumed, whatever. My brother must have just taken my blanket outside and played with it, whatever. So I close the door, and automatically my ex-boyfriend Adam jumps up from underneath the comforter. And in one hand, he's got a knife, and in the other hand, he's got a bottle. And at the time, I didn't know what was inside that water bottle. I just knew it had a cloth sticking out of it. So he's looking at me, and he just keeps saying, "Your family's so stupid. Your family's so stupid." And still to this day, I have no idea what he meant by that. So I did what I always did, and I said, "I love you, let's go talk about this outside, nobody has to know you were here." And he just looks at me and he says, "It's too late." And I could tell that those blue eyes were not the blue eyes that I fell in love with. He looked empty, almost. And I'd never seen him look quite that just distant. It was like he wasn't on the same planet at that moment. So I asked him, I said, "Adam, are you going to kill me?" And he took the knife and he sliced me in the chest. And he said, "Yes." So automatically I just collapsed to the floor. I'm just sobbing and sobbing. My mom comes up. She's like, "Sophia, are you okay?" And I tell her, "Yeah, of course. This girl that just bullied me at school, I'm just upset about it. Don't come in. I want to be by myself." So she comes up probably 3 times asking me if I'm okay. But I don't let her in, of course. But the 3rd time she comes up, I tell her I love her. And when I said it, I thought it was going to be the last time I told her I loved her. And I think my mom could feel that. I think she could feel the pain in my voice. And it's so crazy to think about the fact that I've already, at 20 years old, at the time I was 17, I'd already looked death in the face multiple times. And then I had to tell my mom goodbye, almost. And that was so hard for me. So my mom goes back downstairs. And when she yells for me again, I don't say anything. And so my brother says, "Mom, go check on her. Something's not right." So my mom comes upstairs, and Adam's standing against the door, holding it shut, and I'm just in a ball, just waiting. And he dumps out the gasoline. And my mom opens the door, and as soon as she opens it, you just see a big burst of flames. At the time, I just closed my eyes and I just waited. I didn't want to know what was about to happen. I felt Adam's arms around me. I felt him drag me to the heat. And then I hear my mom's voice, and she's saying, "Sophie, come to me. It's okay. Follow my voice." And I don't say anything. So my mom realizes that I'm not coming. So she starts yelling for my brother. And she tells him to grab something to put the fire out. But my brother didn't know what was going on. He was still downstairs. So he grabbed a baseball bat and he runs upstairs and he sees the flames, and without even thinking, he jumped through the flames. And I hear him yelling, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you." And he just starts whacking. And my room, of course, is filled with smoke and fire, so you couldn't exactly see everything. And so Adam, instead of pulling me into the flames, he then moves me as a shield from my brother. And my brother, who is on the All-Stars baseball team, plays football, basketball. He's like 6'2", really strong. He accidentally hits me in the head. When he hit me in the head, I thought I was dying. I felt the warmest, tingly sensation come over my body that I've ever felt. And my vision completely blacked out. And then the next thing I remember is running down the stairs, and there's just blood dripping everywhere. And then I tell my mom, and she takes me to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, I remember just thinking, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die for sure. And my mom just kept telling me, being as calm as she could be. "You're okay, sweetie. Everything's okay. You're gonna be fine. It doesn't look that bad." Even though I knew it was a lot worse. So we get to the hospital, and automatically I'm surrounded by like 4 cops, and they're just asking me a bunch of questions, What does he look like? Has he done this before? How do you know him? Whatever. And so I tell them as much as I can possibly tell them. But the pain in my head was just overwhelming, and eventually I just start yelling, "Just kill me. Just put me out. You need to put me to sleep or kill me. I cannot take this pain." And they kept asking me questions, and they kept asking me questions until I started switching my words around. And then they realized, okay, something's wrong. We gotta get her down to get a CAT scan or whatever. I ended up having a hematoma, and my brain was cracked. Now I have metal plates. I was in critical condition. I had to be saved by the surgeon, but yeah, I'm still here. So I guess I won. My ex-boyfriend is in prison. And it was so weird when we went to court. So he'd already had all these previous charges from the first time the first time he assaulted me. And so we're going through this court process again. I'm telling the judge my story. Adam tells them his story. They get all the victims, the witnesses, whatever. And at sentencing, I remember the judge looked at us and she's reading her verdict, and she says he's not guilty of attempted murder. And that obviously he just loved her very much, and it went too far. And so I went right back into the mindset that, okay, I deserve this. It's my fault. Obviously, he just loved me so much, and I didn't know how to handle that or whatever. And so once again, I felt broken. I felt awful now that my ex-boyfriend's in jail because of me. It's totally my fault. So thank God the city I live in knew that the judge was wrong. And so people wrote letters to her. They had a rally outside of my trial saying, abuse is not love. And so the judge ended up realizing that she was wrong, and my ex-boyfriend got sentenced to, I think it was like 29 to 50 years. Something like that. Even though my ex-boyfriend is in prison and he himself personally cannot victimize me anymore, I feel myself being re-victimized a lot just by people not understanding exactly the dynamics of domestic violence or how it works or why victims do what we do or why we are the way we are. I remember I spoke at a juvenile home, and one of the people that had actually set up me coming to talk there at the end told me, oh, he was so handsome. Yeah, he did love you a lot. Just things like that, putting it back into my head that, oh, Adam loved me. What Adam did was okay, right? Because that's love. But it's not. It's not even close. And I think if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't believe domestic violence was a thing for people my age. Because at my age, there's not a lot we have to worry about. Our parents paved the way for us, and then we do whatever. You don't think about your kids getting beat up by someone or getting raped or any of that, but it can happen to literally anyone. I grew up in a home with a mom. My mom actually works with kids who have been in traumatic situations. So you'd think that she would be able to, see these warning signs in her own daughter, but of course not. How could she? Nobody thinks that young people can go through what we can go through. Everyone is capable of being in an abusive relationship. I spoke at a school, and out of 39 students, 37 of them had been victims of domestic violence. And that's including men. And I ask myself every single day, why am I still here? It doesn't make sense. I feel guilty a lot of the time. But I know that I'm here because I have a story to tell, and I have the opportunity to hopefully keep someone else out of this situation.